Oameni buni, deja ne jucăm Minecraft aici, nu am făcut teme puțin. Oaie behăini, pași. O să ne jucăm Minecraft, moja.
Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Now in today's episode, we're going to be doing the series finale, probably, to the Bootleg Office saga. Now so far I've done 3 videos featuring these 2 bootleg copies of Microsoft Office Professional 2010. A viewer named Matthew donated this pretty interesting bootleg copy of Microsoft Office Professional 2010. And in that first video I took a look at this, I kind of was able to verify that yes, it is indeed a bootleg copy of Microsoft Office, and I ended up purchasing this copy right here, which I thought was a legitimate copy. It was on eBay, it was branded as a genuine copy of Office 2010, and I purchased it to compare it with this one, but it took about a month to get here, and when I finally got it, I did a follow-up video, and basically figured out that this is yet another bootleg copy of Office 2010 that was branded as a real copy and basically sold to scam people online, right? And then we did a third video where I took a look at a piece of software called the Ultimate PID Checker and used it to see if we could verify the origin of the 2 product keys in here, because even though this is a bootleg copy of Office, I was able to activate it with Microsoft, and I was pretty confused because I said to myself, well, what would be the point of selling a bootleg copy of Office with a genuine product key? I mean, there's no way, I mean, you guys, if you saw that video, you know there's absolutely no way that either of these are legitimate Microsoft products because of the way the packaging is manufactured. This is very, very cheap packaging, even though the outer shell here, the outer casing, looks pretty legit. What we have in here, the famous software paper, where's that? Right here? Microsoft software, there it is. So yeah, I mean, there's so much English on here. So yeah, if you haven't seen any of those videos, I'll have the playlist up in the cards if you want to go check those out and get the full backstory on both of these copies of Office, these fake, non-genuine bootleg copies of Office right here. But I'm making this video today because we have another copy of Microsoft Office Professional 2010 in the studio today, and this one I know for sure 100% is a completely genuine, legitimate, real copy of Microsoft Office Professional 2010. I know this because it was donated to me by a viewer named Spence, who found this at a thrift store. And you might be saying, well, that doesn't really mean it's a genuine copy, right? Well, check this out. This is not any copy of Office 2010. It is a copy that was purchased at a Microsoft company store. Now, if you're not aware, Microsoft has, I believe at all of their campuses, maybe not all of them, but at some of their campuses, they have a company store where employees can purchase Microsoft software at a discount. And when you purchase one of those copies, you're not allowed to sell it or, you know, like try to sell it at like a retail store, right? So they put this sticker on here that says Microsoft Company Store purchase, not to be sold. And I've got the, so it identifies you with your employee number here. So I've got this covered up. I'm not sure if this could be used to identify, I mean, I'm sure within Microsoft it could, but just to, I don't want to put anyone's info out there, so I've just got it covered up here. But this here is the employee number, you know, of the employee who purchased this product. So this, kind of like these copies right here, does not have a barcode on it because it wasn't sold in a store. However, you have this on the back here that is non-existent on these 2 copies here. And this is this little, it's kind of like a QR code. You can go to gettag.mobi. You can scan this for more info about the product. So yeah, in today's video, we're going to be comparing, finally, something I wanted to do like ever since I was sent this copy here by Matthew. I want to compare this genuine copy of Office to these 2 bootlegs, and we'll see how the packaging compares, and I'll be showing you how you can identify a fake copy of Office if you didn't know that these were fake, non-genuine copies. The other reason I'm making this video is because I want to talk a bit more about the product key situation. So I was actually contacted by an anonymous Microsoft employee who offered to run the 2 product keys through some of their internal tools to give us some more information about them. And I have confirmed, as my suspicions were in the last video in this series, that the copy, or not the copy, but the product key for this copy right here that did, or for this one, sorry, that didn't activate, was blocked by Microsoft. Both of them turned out to be real product keys, but yet this one right here, I wasn't able, though what was interesting too is there was actually a copy of Office Standard on the CD, but there was an Office Professional key. But I tried putting that key into multiple copies, multiple editions of Office Pro 2010, the 32-bit, the 64-bit, the student version. I went through all, I mean, I had a bunch of people reach out, and thank you, by the way, to everybody who reached out and offered to try and validate the product key. But the product key, no matter what copy you put it into, it came back and said that the product key was invalid. But yet, the Ultimate PID checker said it was a real product key. Specifically, it was a MSDN key, which came from the Microsoft Developer Network, which those keys are not supposed to be used like for, you're supposed to use them for evaluation purposes. You're not supposed to use them to activate a copy of Office that you sell to somebody. That's literally against the terms of use. So I came to the conclusion that, well, this key must be blocked by Microsoft. They must have blocked it permanently from being used to activate a copy of Office, and I can confirm today that that is exactly what's going on, because through this internal tool that this anonymous Microsoft employee was able to run this key through, it came back as a retail MSDN key, which I assume is just, I guess it's classified as a retail key, even though you can't use these keys for retail, like you can't sell these at like a retail store, right? But the key itself is blocked from activation in big old red font, blocked from activation, and the reason is listed as pirated. So yeah, that confirms my suspicions 100% that this key was being used probably by a lot of people to activate copies of Office 2010 that they didn't buy, so Microsoft put a stop to it. Now the second copy here is a bit more interesting, because if you saw that video, you'll know that I was actually able to activate this one. And I found this really weird because it was so obvious, again, by all the weird spelling stuff in here, software, and just everything on this thing here. It was so weird. It was like, there's no way this is a legit copy, but yet the key worked. I was able to go through the phone activation process and activate the product key. So I was like, what's going on here? Well, in the Ultimate PID checker, it returned as a volume license key. This anonymous Microsoft employee, in the tool that he ran it through, it did come back as a volume MAK key, or multiple activation key, that was not blocked. However, it has an activation limit, and it has exceeded that activation limit. But yet, I was still able to activate this, right? Now you might be saying, well, how is that the case? Wouldn't, if it reaches that activation limit, wouldn't Microsoft say, okay, well, you can't use the key anymore? Wouldn't the activation phone system not allow you to use the key? Well, yes, that's technically what it's supposed to do. However, it doesn't always happen. And I want to read part of the email right here. We can override it. So for example, if it says it's been activated on too many devices / exceeded the activation limit, you can call us and we can override it. Now, usually we don't ask reasons for why this happened. We simply do it for customer satisfaction. This right here explains the positive reviews, or the positive feedback that the eBay seller got for this copy of Office right here. Again, what we saw in here is clearly identifies this as a bootleg / non-legit copy. If somebody had purchased this and just didn't pay attention to any of this, put this disc in and called Microsoft to activate it, and it worked, they would have no reason to believe that this was a non-legit copy, because the key worked after all, right? So it must be legit. So that explains why the seller was getting positive feedback and negative feedback at the same time on this same product, because there were probably some people that saw all of this stuff and said, there's no way this is real. This reasoning that, oh, we just do it for customer satisfaction, that explains why that there were all those positive reviews, because I would guess that Microsoft probably doesn't care a whole lot about Office Pro 2010 anymore. This software is over 10 years old. They probably don't care a whole lot about it. So I guess if somebody gets this copy from somewhere and someone calls up and says, my key didn't work, but I bought it and it's legit, they just say, fine, we'll just activate it, whatever. That might be literally what's going on, although we can't know that for sure. What's interesting though is there's not only an activation limit, there's an activation extension limit. So that is, I would assume, how many times you can extend the activation limit. Now on this particular key, there's a 100 activation extension limit, meaning that you can extend the activation limit 100 times. It's already been extended 14 times. So I don't know if the activation extension limit, when that runs out, then Microsoft says you can't use the key anymore, or maybe they'll just follow that same, I guess, unspoken policy of we'll just do it for customer satisfaction because this copy is so old and you bought it and just whatever, here you go, we'll just activate it for you. So there you go, that's the situation with the two bootleg copies of Office, the two product keys that came with them. So now we're going to bring in the legitimate copy of Office right here, and we're going to be doing some comparisons. Now, I've really talked about all of the major oddities on the packaging and stuff like that. I mean, we know on this one here, there's all of those OCR related issues with the fact like there's 2 spaces between the T here and the O here. There's no space in between the colon here and the B in better. You see like right here, Windows, OWS capitalized, like you have all sorts of weird stuff like that. This one here though, the packaging looks very good. This, now aside from the coloring here, you can see that the coloring, of course, this is the legit one on the right here, and this is the bootleg one here. You can see the coloring is a bit different, but the layout of everything is essentially identical. You've got the side here, like if I bring up the spine, you can see the layout, aside from the briefcase at the bottom, that is a little bit, it looks a little bit different, but the spacing of everything on here looks like it's supposed to be. Though, notice on the bootleg one here, actually, I just noticed this now that I'm comparing it to this real one. You see how it looks like Office is actually lower than Professional. You see how this is like there's a straight, you can very clearly see it's like lined up. This looks like 2 separate text boxes because this text is lower than this here. It almost looks like Microsoft and Office are part of one image or one text box, and the rest of it is a part of a separate text box or image. Because if I bring up like this here, like I'm touching the very bottom of Office there, it's not touching the very bottom of Professional, whereas this here, it's like a straight line across, right? So yeah, that is, I just noticed this comparing it to this here. Now, the original one is way off. Look at that. Oh my gosh, it's way larger. Microsoft is way too small. It's literally touching the 2 F's there in Office. And yeah, it's just the text is larger and it's just not how it's supposed to be at all. This is a much better one here. And on the backs here, once again, you have, I mean, it's very, very close, and you'll have to excuse the scratches up here on the legit copy, but, I mean, you can see that, like, the layout of it's, like, exactly the same, and assuming that they, which is likely what they did, and this explains the OCR errors on here, they just took a legit copy, the packaging for it, and just scanned it in and created images and used those to create these here. But that does lead to some discoloring on this here. Notice how the color doesn't really show up that great on camera, but actually look at this here, right? This is the bootleg, and this here is the legit one, and you can see that the coloring of these, of like the colors here, the blues, they are different. This here actually looks closer, believe it or not, though it gets way darker here than it does here. So yeah, it's just kind of minor stuff like that, but if you weren't like paying attention for it, just like me with which I'm already getting confused with this here, like I didn't notice that this text was higher until I compared it to the legit box right here. The big giveaway for me too was the fact that there's no barcode or even this here on the bottom. Now, the reason why we don't have a barcode on here is because this was not made available for purchase. This was, well, I guess it was at the Microsoft store, but it wasn't made available for retail purchase. So they could have modeled this box here after a non for resale box, maybe like one of these, or they just didn't bother to put the barcode on here. But there's nothing on the bottom, right? And that's of course going to be the same here. But if we take a look at the text here on the bottom, we can see some more differences. First of all, we've got 3 different colors here. This is more white on the right here, which is the legit one. And on the 2 bootlegs, you've got like a cream color, and then you've got yellow over here. And check out the spacing on the text here. It seems like it's way too close for, you know, the web address there and then the copyright info. You can see how there's more of a space in between. There's like a very clear separation between the URL and the copyright info there. And you can see how like this text here is intentionally smaller because it's kind of like a little, you know, footnote almost. Some examples are fictitious. This here, they did a good job at copying that. This one here, it's the same size as everything else on here. In fact, so is this text here, which is supposed to be smaller, right? But the major giveaways are going to be on the inside. So first off, let's just open all these up. Why don't we just do that? That's a great way to start. So this is the original one, the original bootleg, not the original, like the real copy. Here's the second bootleg, and here is the legit one, which can easily be identified by the company store purchase sticker on the front here. What I found odd as well is, we'll just set the middle one aside for now. We'll come back to that one later. These two, and I'm still fairly certain that this shell here is a legit Microsoft part, because it looks very, very close, and just considering the contrast between the way the outer shell looks with all those OCR issues, and then how this looks identical to a legit copy, just seems weird to me. So I honestly feel like they just took the shell, like they purchased it, or they purchased just the packaging from other Office copies and they used that and just slid it into this here. I guess that they purchased just this part and not this here because they had to, you know, copy it. Here's the spine of it here, right? It looks identical to me. You've got writing on the interior of both of them. Here's the back, and nothing major stands out to me aside from this up here, which this is in the company store copy. It's just one of these things, you know, that you'll typically see in, you know, kind of high value items that'll set off the alarm if you leave the store. So I guess Microsoft used those at their company stores as well. But yeah, nothing major sticks out to me. And then on you know, like the side here, you open it up from, nothing major stands out. And the feel of both of these, they feel exactly the same. They're the same weight, as opposed to this one here, which is made of this much cheaper feeling plastic. You don't have all that writing on the spine here. Whereas if I open both of these up and we take a look at the inside of these, here's the bootleg one. We open this up here, you've got writing here. Like here's like a part number, I believe it says patent pending. So here's the real one. We'll just take the disc out here and set it aside. Right here it says patent pending. You can only make it out, probably like a part number written across here. On the bootleg one here, you have that same thing. It does look a little bit different, but that is not uncommon for, you know, this could be a different variation of this same shell here, this same part number. So that could explain why the text looks a little bit different, and there's probably a different part number. Actually, no, all the text is exactly the same. So on this side here, you've got the part number. You've got, it says US patent, and it's got like a patent number down here. And it's the same here, the same exact number. So that's why I honestly feel like this one is a shell. And then they just put in this insert that had, you know, this is the fake instruction, the bootleg instruction manual. And then this here with the product key on. The material of that, let me take this out here. Yeah, this here feels like a much thinner piece of paper than this here. This is a much thicker piece. Let's take a look at the manuals. So this is the legit manual. The manual, they've done a pretty good job at you know, recreating here, obviously aside from all the spelling problems. And the, you know, this is all, again, likely OCR related issues as to why some of the text shows up a bit differently. Right here in the bottom, Microsoft, Office.com, font is different. Of course, OCR issues would explain that. Now, the images are another giveaway. You can see that they're much lower quality here on the bootleg one. In fact, if I open, there was one that looked, yeah, these here look really bad, and I can probably, they probably don't look that way on here. Oh yeah, see, they're much higher quality images. This definitely looks like a scan here. Let's take a look at the manual for the second bootleg. So this one here, very low quality images, and again, just for reference, here's the real ones. Same with the images over here, much higher quality, much more detail on these. That's how those compare to the legit manual here. So we'll set that, let's set that back in here. Why don't we? And last but not least, let's compare the CDs, because I'm sure you guys are very curious about that, and I am curious myself as well. So right here we have the legitimate Office CD. Now, it's pretty hard to tell at first glance, like especially with the second bootleg right here. So here's the second bootleg. I'll bring them both up here. Nothing really, like, there's slightly different, you know, like the text here looks to be bold. The part number I think is